Hello, welcome to the INTP stream. Um, I basically had I had a bit of a experience yesterday evening um, where I was watching a film analysis, and I got this image. Often when you're watching film analyses, the focus is on a lot of the visual metaphors that are employed in films, and the film analysts are attempting to derive symbolic meaning from visuals and images used in the film. And getting into that mode of thinking got me. I got this. I guess I had a thought on how beauty might be experienced, and what um, either enhances or potentiates that experience, and what hampers our ability to experience beauty in life, which may as well be the antidote to nihilism. So, in that sense, it wouldn't be absurd to posit that beauty is, in some sense, an antidote to nihilism, and that the more we can potentiate our experience of it, the better. I mean, it ultimately functions as a kind of existential motor that keeps individuals going, um, and along their respective paths, and that's ultimately a good thing existentially, to the extent you regard human life and human the human experience as a value, which doesn't have to be. But in any case, I had this image. It was a film analysis of the film American Beauty. It was Kevin Spacey plays the protagonist, and it's an image of a woman um, clipping. She's basically the character is portrayed as sort of a manic, depressive, very status conscious kind of woman, who is very persnickety about the appearances she maintains in her place of living. Her out front garden, her white picket fence, kind of uh, status conscious, image management kind of a personality, and just kind of a social climber type. And the image I get. The scene we're watching is this character kind of tending to her garden out front, and she's clipping a rose, and she's inspecting the rose very, very carefully. And I guess in that moment I kind of had a realization about one potential response to beauty, and how often our attempts at possession, control, and attempts at possession and control are two things that may hamper our experience of beauty, part of which is a kind of acceptance. So, um, I guess to see when we're, I guess the idea I'm trying to convey here is that instead of admiring the rose, instead of appreciating it as it is, and leaving it as it is, accepting it as it is, and allowing it to continue being, right, she clips it, and in doing so she destroys it, so that she can take it, so that she can possess it and keep it for herself. And in that sense, this is often, the appreciation of nature, and nature itself, and the beauty of nature is often very secondary to our will to control it, to manipulate it, to make it serve our ends, to possess it, to have it for ourselves. And so, instead of, when we're going about, experiencing beauty, instead of treating that beautiful thing as something, accepting it as it is, and leaving it to be itself, we in clipping the rose, we destroy it. We ultimately, in trying to take that beauty for ourselves and to keep it for ourselves, we ultimately destroy um, the beautiful thing that we encounter. Um, and so to clip a rose is not to admire and appreciate beauty, it's to attempt to possess it. And ultimately, when we attempt to do this in life, whether it comes to beauty or any other higher kind of mental experience, this will to possess and to maintain and to preserve often hampers our ability to, and this goes back to a discussion about ego and the desire for control and the desire to possess, the desire to enhance, the desire to optimize. All of these are very good things in their own way and are absolutely essential and necessary to human survival. But ultimately, they're only good for survival, and survival is really worth very little if we only attain survival. So, in that sense, there is something almost paradoxical in clipping a rose because we are we are destroying, this beautiful thing ultimately in doing so, so that we can keep that beauty for ourselves when we could simply let it be and accept it and admire it and let it go. But instead, we have to clip it. In doing so, we destroy it. We can artificially sustain it by keeping it in a vase and trying to create the conditions that would make it that would you know we can artificially sustain it, but ultimately it will deteriorate, and that all has to do. And would it deteriorate anyway? Yes, of course, but not much. So, but in any case, um, it's just to say that part of our ability to part of the experience of beauty is acceptance and pure contemplation and admiration, and um, it's a very non-utilitarian kind of experience, um, not to be earned or to be deserved or to be attained per se, rather to simply be amidst any circumstance. It's a transcendent experience in that way. And those things aren't easily attained. So, in that sense, you know, to clip a rose, to attempt to possess beauty ultimately destroys it. And if we want to potentiate the experience of beauty and want to bring more of that into our lives, which may as well be the antidote to nihilism, then we we have to perhaps defy our desire to possess, to control, to sustain, to preserve, to optimize, but not necessarily to optimize. But in some sense, if uh, yeah, um, a lack of ego involvement is necessary to experience beauty in some sense. And clip a rose is, I think, uh, the most uh, it is egotistical in some sense. It's a desire to take that beauty which could have been allowed to continue being for others to experience. Instead, to clip the rose is ultimately to destroy the beauty by trying to possess it. And it's simply better to let it be in some sense. And um, this, I guess, is a little bit poetic. I to the extent you'd want to use that term. Um, it's simply a visual metaphor I'm trying to use to describe how beauty should be experienced, how the experience of beauty could be potentiated and brought about, what antagonizes that experience and limits it, and simply to use a visual metaphor, that being clipping a rose, to describe to describe a very particular egotistical approach to beauty, which is to clip it and to destroy the beauty in attempting to possess it, when the beauty could be let to continue if it were simply admired and contemplated for its own sake. So that's really the only point that I wanted to make. I think we tend to, on this channel, I don't really discuss these types of, this is more existential, non-technical philosophy, but it's still interesting for its own sake, even if it amounts to um, pseudo poetry or something like that. Um, it's simply a metaphor that could be used to understand what beauty is and how it should be approached, and how, and this is the weird thing. This is the basic paradox and contradiction in everything I'm saying, is that I'm attempting to prescribe a way to potentiate and increase the experience of beauty. And that contradicts what I'm saying about beauty simply being, simply being transcendent in the sense that it can't be attained. So I'm trying to prescribe a way to attain the experience of beauty, when I'm also saying that the desire to attain and possess beauty destroys the beauty and denies us the ability to experience it. So there is a bit of a paradox or a contradiction in what I'm saying. But regardless, those have to be, perhaps those at times have to be tolerated for the sake of a good metaphor, or a good discussion. Um, if not treated as facts, if only treated, I mean, you know, um, there are ways of looking at things and there are things. And often it's difficult to distinguish between what is simply a way of looking at it and what is the thing itself. This is just a perspective rather than any kind of argument. But part of my goal with this channel is, I guess, to provide maybe some different ways that I would look at things, in an individual way, and hopefully it's coherent and sensible enough that it could be adopted into your own life. So, yeah, thank you for watching.